Communication is really important in all relationships, not just intimate relationships. So it could be business, it could be friends, it could be those intimate relationships as well, it could be family. So no matter who we are, we all have relationships with people. And communicating is really important. And once we get that right, then we can be heard better and we can engage much more deeply with other people. So I'm going to go through a few different models of communicating. The first one's got 7 steps in it. The first step is active listening. And so that's not just hoping that they get over it and then you can have your turn. It's actually engaging with what they are saying, how they are saying it, what is their body language like, and be deeply interested in what they have to say, really engage. Now, some people say active listening is you sort of make the sounds like, oh, yes, and all of that. But that can be sometimes distracting to people, especially if that's not natural for you. But make eye contact with them, not a little bit over the top, but just look at them, engage with them. Maybe use body language yourself, like nodding or looking surprised or whatever is suitable, obviously, for that. Also, with active listening, try to understand their point of view. Even if you disagree with it, try to work out where they are coming from. Don't forget, everybody is doing the best they can with what they've got at that time. And so when you are engaging with somebody, you are showing them that you are interested and that they are being heard. The second step is about expressing yourself clearly and assertively. Now, clear and assertive communication is really crucial for articulating your needs, your desires, and your boundaries in a relationship. Now, you might think that assertive communication is overpowering, but not if you get it right. So, by being assertive, you respect the boundaries and the rights of the other person, but very much so yourself as well. So you are saying very clearly what you want, what you think. Assertiveness strikes a balance between passive and aggressive communication. It allows you to effectively communicate your ideas without infringing on the other person's boundaries and their rights. And being assertive allows you to maintain your individuality whilst also fostering compromise and mutual understanding. And I'm going to talk a bit more about assertive communication later on. The third one is non-verbal communication. Actions speak louder than words. The third point is about body language rather than just verbal content. You've probably heard it batted around about the 7-38-55 rule, where 7% is what you're actually saying, the words of what you're saying. 38% is about tone of voice, and the 55% is about body language. Now, that research was about when people were saying something, but their body language was completely different. So they might have been saying something nice, but their body language was angry or distant, something like that. And so, yes, the 7-35-55 or 7-38-55 rule would apply then. But when you are talking, your body language and your tone of voice needs to match what you are saying, and then it will have much more impact. So do be aware of your body language when you're communicating with somebody, not something, and your tone of voice. If you recognize that your tone of voice is monotone and not got much expression in it, then practice. Think about quietening it down sometimes. Think about raising it up and maybe lowering it down and quietening it as well. Now, the fourth point about effective communication is emotional intelligence, and that's empathy and understanding. Now, being emotionally intelligent means that we can work out how others feel. Empathy is when we understand how that person would feel if something was happening to them. That is empathy. Sympathy is quite different. It's feeling sorry for somebody. Now, being able to recognize and understand our own emotions as well as those of others is highly important when we are communicating. So just think about how you can empathize more. Just if you see something on telly or on the news, developing empathy will happen when you put yourself in that person's situation and just imagine what they must be going through. The fifth point of this is about conflict resolution and navigating differences. Now, conflict is a natural part of any relationship. But how we handle it, and I've got some tips about that coming up soon as well, how we handle it determines its impact on our relationships. Now, if we approach conflicts with the willingness to understand and find common ground, that will really help. Practice the active listening. Express your concerns using I statements and strive for a solution that benefits both of you. Find a compromise if you can. And again, more tips on that as well coming up. Number 6, regular check-ins. Now, this is much more to do with intimate relationships or family members. Make communication a priority in those important relationships by regularly checking in with your partner. Schedule dedicated time to discuss your relationship. Express gratitude, share concerns, and set goals together. Creating an environment of open dialogue promotes trust and it strengthens emotional bonds and it cultivates a deeper connection. Now, the last point of these 7 is respectful communication, which is building trust and mutual respect. Now, respectful communication is essential for maintaining healthy and harmonious relationships. Treat the other person with kindness. Actively listen to their opinions and respond with respect, even when you disagree. Avoid dismissive language and body language, and definitely avoid sarcasm. Don't make belittling remarks because those can erode trust and damage the relationship and its foundation. So those were the first 7 pointers. Now I'm going to talk about stopping somebody getting defensive, which is really helpful, isn't it? Especially when you're having an argument or a discussion about things that neither of you agree on. So there are 3 tips for this one. Start with something you agree with. But what if they've said nothing that you can agree with? I could give you plenty of examples about talking to people about certain issues that I don't agree with, but I'm not going to make it personal. Now, if there's nothing in the content of the argument that you do agree with, simply agree that you two are having a discussion. For example, I agree that this is worth discussing, but make sure you use those 2 magic words, I agree. So that's the first thing. Then tell them what you've learned. Now, as long as they hear the phrase, I have learned, it makes them feel like they're educating, that they're understood, and now they're less defensive. Now, if you think you haven't learned anything about the topic, then say something along the lines of, I have learned how important this is to you. And then finally, you can try using the phrase, that's helpful to know. If you tell them that they've been helpful, it makes them feel they've invested in their own mutual understanding and that they are going to be more receptive to what you have to say. So those 3 things. Start with something that you agree with, tell them what you've learned, and try using the phrase, that's helpful to know. Okay, so those are a couple of models there, or some ideas. And now something I use quite a lot in my therapy business, definitely in the classroom as well, is the ABCD model. I used to call it the XYZ, and then my sister Naomi Harding told me a little bit more and gave 4 parts to it. So I'm now adopting that model. So, very simply, when and A is the behaviour that they've done, not the person, I feel B, but you need to be very careful with feeling words here. Keep it really simple. Therefore, I'm needing C. Now, can we do D? So I'll say that again. When A, I feel B, therefore I'm needing C, therefore can we do D? Here's an example. When you ask me a question and then interrupt my answer, I feel my thoughts aren't important to you. Therefore, please can you let me finish what I'm saying so I feel heard? Now, can we start this conversation again? It's so straightforward, isn't it? And it can be used in all relationships, not just intimate ones. Now, I promised you I was going to tell you a little bit more about assertive communication. This is it. Assertive communication is a way of communicating that is honest, direct, and respectful. It is a way of standing up for yourself without being aggressive or passive. Assertive communicators are able to express their needs and wants in a way that is clear and concise. So when you become an assertive communicator, you are able to listen to the other person's point of view and compromise when necessary. There are so many benefits to assertive communication. Assertive communication means that you don't get bullied, you won't get manipulated. You are more likely to get your needs met. You are also more likely to build strong relationships with others and less likely to feel stressed or anxious. You're less likely, or it's highly unlikely, you'll get into a relationship with a narcissist, because they won't be able to manipulate you. They won't be able to make you their puppet. So being an assertive communicator will protect you from those damaging relationships. So if you want to improve your assertive communication skills, there are a few things that you can do. First, it's important to be aware of your own communication style. What are you like when you communicate now with people? Are you typically passive? Do you let them just get on with it and just don't say anything? It's easier to keep quiet. Or are you aggressive? Do you get angry quickly, or do you have to put your point of view across? Doesn't matter what they think. Or are you assertive? So once you know your own style, you can start to make changes. So self-awareness is key here. Understanding your thoughts, your emotions, and your values, and recognize your rights to express yourself and have your needs met without guilt or fear of rejection. Practice active listening. So engage in empathic and attentive listening, as I've mentioned before, demonstrating respect and interest in what the person is having to say. Use I statements. So express your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions using I statements to avoid sounding as if you're accusing the other person. That will also help you take responsibility for your stuff and for your needs. So, for example, instead of saying, "You always make me feel bad," you could say, "I feel bad when you do that." Or instead of saying, "You're being horrible, you're being nasty," or something much worse than that, you could say, "I feel hurt when you talk to me that way." So those are I statements. Body language and tone, I've said about that already, but pay attention to your body language and your tone of voice. Maintain an open and relaxed posture. Make eye contact and use a calm but assertive tone to convey your message effectively. And practice assertive phrases. Prepare assertive phrases so that you can express yourself confidently. Practice statements such as, I would like, or I disagree because, or even better, I need some time to think about this. Can you give me a moment? Or can you wait until tomorrow? Now that will help you express your thoughts clearly and assertively. Set boundaries as well. Now clearly define your personal boundaries and communicate them respectfully to others. And seek win-win solutions. When conflicts arise, approach them with an open mind and try to find mutually beneficial solutions. Engage in active problem solving and compromise, and consider the perspectives and needs of all parties involved. Just because they're different to you does not mean they are wrong. They're just different. Be aware of your body language. What's it like? Are you being open or are you being closed? Are you coming across as aggressive or calm? Okay. For example, if you are saying that you're feeling angry, but your body language is not responding then they might not believe you. If you say that I do care about you, and your body language is aggressive and really off, then they're not going to believe you. And finally, practice. The more you practice assertive communication, the better you'll become at it. So start with practicing with people that you feel really comfortable with, and then gradually work your way up at practicing with people you're less comfortable with. Now, effective communication and assertive communication can change so much about how you feel about yourself. And when you feel better about yourself, you start feeling better about others. When you feel better about yourself and more confident with who you are and how you are expressing yourself and what you are saying, there's a feeling that comes with that gives you a confidence and a higher self-esteem. So finally, with all of these things that I've mentioned on this post, choose one thing that you can practice today and tomorrow. Practice that, get that under your belt a little bit. If you need to practice it for another day, then do. But then introduce something else. What are you going to start with?